All right, lads, we're at the halfway stage of the Premier League season. Are we actually at the halfway stage of the Premier League season? We are beyond the halfway stage of the Premier League season, and the table is really starting to take some shape. You know, the promoted teams have been struggling. West Ham and Brighton are providing some upsets again, and Chelsea are shocking again. But who have been the standout performers? Which players have impressed us the most? This is your 23-24 team of the season so far. So how's this actually going to work? I'm going to go through all the candidates, all of the nominees, position by position, starting, of course, in goal, making it all the way through to the number 9s. We'll go through some honourable mentions at each stage, and then right at the end, I will show you the team. Before we get into this one, though, feel free to slap a like on the vid, subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really does help me out. If this video gets to 7,000 likes, I'll give you my worst team of the season so far as well. So let's get going. Let's start with the shot stoppers, and we start with a man who plays for the best team in the world. Alisson Becker's the greatest. Honestly, that man is one flat cap away from being the best goalkeeper of all time. He's insane. I genuinely love him. He is, of course, our first candidate here, playing for top of the table Liverpool. He's got the best save percentage in the league. As usual, he saves Liverpool in times of need. Anytime Joel Matip engages in some minor terrorism, Alisson is there to bail us out. He's got a joint most clean sheets in the league as well, which obviously is a bit of a combined effort with the defense. But honestly, I'd say 4 of those 6 clean sheets solely down to him. After that, we've got Vicario of Tottenham, who has come in and really impressed after joining Tottenham from Serie A. I'm sure a lot of people didn't really know that much about him. I just saw him make a crazy triple save for Empoli one time on Twitter. But that performance of his against Chelsea, when Ange Postecoglou was doing a higher line than Diego Maradona on a Boeing, I think that might actually be the best goalkeeping display of any goalkeeper this season. And he still conceded 4 goals, which is nuts. But his stat for like goals saved is positive 6.7, which I think is the best in the entire league. It basically breaks down like the XG, the expected goals for him to concede, and how many he's been able to save just by himself. So statistically, he is the best goalkeeper in the league. But the stats also look favourably on Hammer's goalkeeper, Alphonse Areola, who's played 17 games for West Ham this season, and has definitely just quietly gone about being one of the best goalkeepers in the league this season. His value that I was just talking about with Vicario is positive 5.2, the second best in the league, and when you convert it to per 90, because he's not started every game, Fabianski's started a few as well, he's actually got the best of any goalkeeper in the division. Plus, he's named after a nipple. So what more could you actually want in a goalkeeper? Which would he rather hold, a ball or a tiddy? It's the question of life, really. We move, though, on to wing backs. Let's get wide. Pause. Trent Alexander-Arnold first, right back. I mean, there were still those sort of question marks maybe at the start of the season when he was a little bit slow off the mark, especially in that Chelsea game where Liverpool generally was slow off the mark. But in the second half of this the second quarter, maths with Niran has been like prime Trent again. A massive 12 big chances created, most of which probably for Darwin Núñez, which is why he doesn't actually have 12 assists overall. He's got 3 in total, 2 goals, although that Bernd Leno own goal is basically his. But overall, still crazy output and creativity as well. He deserves to be here just for that volley that almost went in against Newcastle from like the corner flag. Now, I hazard a guess if Pedro Porro tried to do that, he'd knock out an old woman in the crowd. But what he has been good at this season is basically everything else. He gave me major erratic wing-back vibes. Him and Emerson Royale combining together, WWE SmackDown. But actually, he's calmed it down. He's a complete wing-back who's top of some really good defensive charts, has the most blocks of anyone in the league and second most tackles of any defender whatsoever. On top of that, he's got output going forward as well, 6 assists. And he's been consistent too, being very good in some big games like against Villa, West Ham and Newcastle. If we're talking numbers, Pedro Porro's got a really good chance. He's only really bettered in terms of assists by one man, and that's Kieran Trippier of Newcastle, who started this season like crazy. 7 assists for him, so effective in wide areas. But as Newcastle have dropped off in terms of form through injuries and players not being available, he has had some shocking games too. Out of anyone in this wing-back section, he's had the biggest highs and biggest lows too. That game against Everton, stinker. Chelsea, stinker. Tottenham, stinker. Chelsea and Tottenham he used to play for. Tell you what, when he plays Man City, it's ended in 3 own goals. But now, I think when Newcastle have some more players available and that injury list is slightly shorter, you'll see Kieran Trippier back to his best. And then in terms of left backs, not really that many to choose from. Trippier can play on the left-hand side as well, but Destiny Udogie of Tottenham has just been, context-wise, really impressive. New player to the league. He's a youngster as well. Thought he'd kind of struggle a little bit, but he's come in and really adapted very well. The red card against Chelsea was insane. Mental stuff. Made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But outside of that, he's been good going forward and defensively solid too. Only a couple of honourable mentions here, really. Diogo Dalot of Man U, before United fell off a cliff again with Ten Hag, was actually pretty decent. And that Alfie Doherty, who plays for Luton, though I think he plays as a winger sometimes, but he can play at wing back. I think, again, a newly promoted side and a player with, I don't think, any Premier League experience before this season. He's created a lot, got quite a few assists, and looked pretty good. Centre-backs, we're on to the big boys now. I shouldn't say sentences like that, really. I don't help myself. I don't think there's a man that's been tweeted about more by Arsenal fans in the history of the football club than William Saliba. This guy, they love him, like more than their own children, most of them. But to be fair, it's easy to see why. The phrase Rolls Royce said about, I hate it so much. But if there was anyone that was going to get compared to a luxury automobile, it's probably William Saliba, plus another man that I'll mention in a second. But if you dribble at this guy, come prepared to lose. You've got a 93% chance of losing the ball if you dribble at William Saliba. Crazy numbers, and that is the highest value of anybody in the league. So no one is better at dispossessing players who are trying to dribble at him than William Saliba. But one man who's not too bad at that as well is Virgil van Dijk, the prototype, really. Van Dijk's back in his prime, man. We really do love to see it. Top for aerials 1 this season as well, commanding in the air, and just overall a beautiful looking man. Back at Tottenham now, and it's Christian Romero, the Argentine World Cup winner. Honestly, this guy would tackle his own mum for an extra biscuit. He tackles everybody. He double foot Gary Neville in the Sky Studio, I'll tell you that for free. Very well timed, very aggressive centre-back, bit of a shithouse as well, which I like to see. 3 goals and 3 assists as well for Romero, plus I think 5 clean sheets. Again, bit of a victim of Tottenham falling off, but that's not due to him. And the final actual option here might be a surprise. Joachim Andersen from Crystal Palace. I love this guy. I think he's a quality centre-back, and Crystal Palace did such a good job bringing him in. Couple goals, an assist, 5 clean sheets for Palace, 2nd on clearances for any centre-back in the league, and 1st in my FPL heart. Had this guy since game week 1, and he's done the business. I love you, Joachim. Please, call me back, answer my call. On to the honourable mentions, one that I did mention a second ago, Mickey van der Veen. Problem is he's just been injured for like the last 2 months. Ezri Konsa at Aston Villa is top of a lot of defensive stats and charts right now, and I'm glad he's finally getting his recognition, his flowers in the England setup. And then finally at Wolves, shout out Craig Dawson, man, because he's just the most unassuming good centre-back. He looks like a dad that exclusively wears like checkered button shirts and sets fires to things at barbecues because he thinks he's a good cook. So how he's actually a good centre-back is beyond me. DMs, something I don't get anymore. And where else to start, man? Rodri. Elegant, but also shithouse. The perfect blend, really, the Manchester City DM. And the thing I measure Rodri's greatness with, okay, because we need to start respecting him more. I'm seeing teams of the seasons, yeah, the end of campaigns, and teams of the years that don't have Rodri in. You need to grow up. I know it's boring because he never makes any mistakes, and Pep Guardiola and Man City win everything. But when he doesn't play, lads, they completely fall apart. He is integral to arguably the best squad in world football right now. He has to be the greatest, and he scores bangers and important goals all of the time. The man he's getting compared to really is Arsenal's Declan Rice, who we always knew was great, you know, even at his time at West Ham, but he's upgraded even further from very strong microwave packet rice. We're at full basmati now, all right? Top 4 progressive passes, even though there's a bit of a stigma that he just passes it backwards all the time. Arsenal again have kind of fallen off, but I don't think it's because of Declan Rice, even though he was kind of poor against West Ham. You're going to see a few Aston Villa players in this. It's only right, man. They're overachieving massively with Unai Emery at the helm and with Douglas Luiz at the heart of a midfield. He has been sensational alongside Boubacar Kamara and John McGinn. He's got a few goal contributions, 3 assists, 6 goals, though 4 from the penalty spot. We don't need to talk about that. And on top of that, he's secured Elisha Lehmann. So Douglas Luiz, you are in the team of the season so far. And the final option here is Fulham's João Palhinha, who obviously was on the verge of going to Bayern Munich in the summer, and there's no surprise in that, because this guy is incredible. He's like a cultured player, right, who can find a pass and strike a ball very hard, but also his defensive numbers are insane. Most tackles of any player in the league, full stop. 34 blocks, which I think puts him like 2nd of any player in the league as well. Literally won them the game against Arsenal with a block. If he doesn't end up at Bayern by the end of the season, he's a real contender for getting in a team at the end of the year, but I just think he'll go there if they come back in for him. And then a couple of honourable Honourable mentions here, Pap Sarr, who he's maybe a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder, but can kind of do this role as well. Really come into his own after struggling a little bit last season. And this might surprise you a little bit, but Wataru Endo, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm saying a little bit out of bias, because I watched Liverpool a lot, right? And he did struggle at the start. But in the time at which he's been needed, he's actually been very good. Like, the last month, he's been better than Declan Rice. Centre mids now, it's getting a little bit more exciting, a few more attacking runs here and there. And we start with a man that you've not seen in a little while, but when he was playing, Jesus Christ, he was incredible. James Maddison. Flipping it, this guy was on course for like top 5 player of the season shouts, like nominations for that, not just getting in a team of the season. And obviously Tottenham were cooking at the start of the season, and with his injury, with Mickey van der Veen's injury, they've really struggled. Well, and everyone else, like literally everyone else getting injured too. But 3 goals, 5 assists in 11 matches, and he was also consistently good against big opposition, like Liverpool, like against United, like against Arsenal. After that is maybe a shout that might surprise you, but Martin Odegaard, who ultimately is one of the best like creative centre mids in the league, hasn't really performed though, I think, at the same level as he did last season for sure. He's up there, he's still playing well, but a blot on the copybook is the fact that Arsenal have been bad recently. So recency bias is going to tell you he's not been that great. But overall, creates a lot. 44 key passes, really solid amount from him, and he's just beautiful to watch, man. Honestly, I actually love watching Martin Odegaard play football. After that, we got Bernardo Silva, the ultimate utility man. He can play anywhere. 9 goal contributions in 15 starts is pretty solid. Always getting rotated a little bit with Pep rotation, and also just not quite doing the same attacking role as he has in the last 2 seasons, but looking solid. Just usual Bernardo magic Silva stuff. One man that used to play for City though, but he's making a name at Chelsea. It's Cole Palmer. I need to put the heating on just watching him play football. A lot of people saying that he's just doing his own penalty shootout for the season, and I do hear that. A penalty performer, spot kick specialist, 18-yard box marinator. But outside of that as well, he has been good. I know that's how a lot of his output has come, but like outside of that, just his general play, the guy is like the only bright spark for Chelsea right now. Without him, genuinely, Todd Bowley would be in a hedge somewhere in South London. So Cole Palmer doing the Lord's work for the Blues. Another left field option next up, and it's Brighton's Pascal Gross, who deserves flowers. This guy's been underrated for the longest time, always performed well in a Brighton side that has again overachieved in recent years, and I think he's actually played in every position possible. Dig through the files, there's definitely a game where he just slapped the goalkeeping gloves on at one point. He's played centre mid, left back, right back, out wide, in the canteen, and at the checkout for the club shop. Is recency bias a part of this? Maybe. Does he have a mental letter at the end of his name? Absolutely. But he has 6 assists this season and 52 key passes, which is up there with the best in the league. He is the creative hub for that Brighton team. And then finally at Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes, who I think is always a bit of a victim of just how bad the rest of the team around him is sometimes. It's easy to forget that he's a very good footballer, but like genuinely his consistency, the amount that he actually runs about as well, he is a hard worker for the team, and creatively he is the central force in that Man U team. It's not been Bruno Fernandes' best season, but it's not that bad. That doesn't really sell it that well at all. Honourable mentions here, Morgan Gibbs-White, who's not necessarily played right central midfield for Nottingham Forest, but has been sick. I mean, he's just a baller, man. If Nottingham Forest do ever end up getting relegated, or they are always fighting relegation battles, Morgan Gibbs-White, he'll be out of there. He'll be playing for like Aston Villa or Tottenham or something. Dominic Szoboszlai, again, is it a little bit biased because he's a Liverpool player and he's also beautiful? Maybe. Can I spell his name? Absolutely not. But he has been probably one of the Premier League signings of the season, I would say, so far. I don't think quite enough to get into this team, but I'm so impressed with him. He's everything that I wanted him to be as a number 8 in this team and more. Conor Gallagher deserves some flowers. Really has struggled since going back to Chelsea from his loan spell at Palace, in terms of just like his name almost and what the public perception is of him. But at a time where he's actually playing really well, he deserves the credit. About top 5, I think, for tackles of any player in the league. Doing a really good job, basically, at Chelsea. And John McGinn. I mean, I don't know what Unai Emery's put in this guy's cereal, but he's converted him back again to what he was about 3-4 years. The guy's insane. So yeah, John McGinn deserves a shout. Wingers! Right, we're getting to the goal-scoring machines. And we start off with the goal-scoring machine himself, Mohamed Salah. Look, listen, right, I've seen some disrespect all right? I like the Pitch Side podcast, but I saw talk on there of the fact that Mo Salah was not having a good season because all he was doing was scoring goals. What are we doing here, guys? Like, come on. I'm seeing people say this on Twitter all the time as well.
There's games where he's not playing well.
Every player has games where they don't play well. You can't slap in a 10 out of 10 all the time. But even in games where, like, it looked as if it was going to be one of those bad days at the office against Newcastle, he pulls out genuinely one of the best second half performances I've seen of a player the calendar year that we've just had. That outside of the boot assist alone was ridiculous. The guy's on smoke, and in a game and a sport where goals quite literally do win you games, being joint top of the goal scoring charts and joint top of the assist charts, it is a good season. I mean, statistically, he just is one of the best players in the league right now. Another man who's been really good goal scoring wise though is Heung-min Son at Tottenham, 12 goals for him. He's also overperforming his XG by like 5, which is nuts. Either means he's a very clinical goal scorer, it means he's getting a little bit lucky. It's not something that he can necessarily keep up with, but it does show high quality level finishing and that he's scoring some crazy goals. If he can keep that up till the end of the season, then shout out to him. Another option here for me is Crystal Palace's Michael Elise. This is another guy I actually love watching play football. His ball control, dribbling, just ball carrying, speed, and actual final third output. This guy, I mean, it's nuts. It's borderline illegal at times. His goals per night is up at 0.66 per game, which puts him 7th of anybody in the league so far, and I honestly, if he carries on playing like this till the end of the season, I can see like a big move happening next campaign, and he will be the first to let the various girls at Instagram know that information. Jared Bowen, I mean, how is this guy not in the England setup? Oh wait, I know why. 11 goals for Jared this season at West Ham. We shouldn't be surprised with Jared Bowen anymore, man. The greatest surprise is that he's like a product of a place called Hereford. Truthfully, I think that's actually the most surprising thing out of all of this. The National League story, man, the non-league story, culminated, of course, with a European trophy last campaign, and he's taken that confidence, taken that trophy win for West Ham, and ran with it this season. He has been incredible. Worth noting as well, he's second for non-penalty goals of any player in the league. Phil Foden, I think, kind of goes under the radar because we expect so much of him, and we expect so much of Man City as well. So anytime he does anything, it's like, well, that's Phil Foden, and then we almost notice him more when he's having those quiet spells, which he does have from time to time, but I wouldn't say he's really had that this season so far, which is why I think he's a firm candidate here. 6 assists, 10th for key passes as well, real creator for that Man City side, and I mean, he's just, again, a beautiful player to watch. Got a lot of wingers here, lads, so bear with me. Next up at Wolves, Hwang Hee-chan, 10 goals is his best return at the club already, and it's only January. 10 goals in 17 starts, by the way, is actually mental. No offense, but for a side like Wolves, who are in mid-table, that's just positional rather than the actual ability of the squad. Yeah, man, he's a FPL warrior at the moment, and his name's great to say as well, so really what more can you ask for? Leon Bailey a shout as well, really, just for the fact, again, like everything he touches turns into goals right now. Another player who's massively outperforming his XG. According to that, he should have only scored like 2.5 goals this year. That's impossible. I know a half a goal's not. But you know what I'm saying? He's clinical in front of goal, putting away his chances very, very nicely, and again, been very key to how well Aston Villa have been playing, especially in the last 2-3 months, himself and Moussa Diaby. And then finally, out the proper winger candidates, you're probably surprised it's taken this long to actually say his name, but Arsenal's Bukayo Saka, who I think performance-wise hasn't been as good this season as he was last year. I think that's the same as Odegaard. I think if you looked at them first half of last campaign, you'd look at Saka and he's putting in consistent 9 out of 10s. Odegaard's putting consistent 9 out of 10s. Whereas this year, you're looking at more like 7.5s and 8s on a regular basis. But don't get it twisted, still a great creator for Arsenal as well, and of course has scored a decent amount of goals this season. 6 assists for him, 50 key passes. Baller. And then your honourable mentions. First of all, Kaoru Matoma, who started the season so well and dipped off a little bit through injury and fitness problems. Jacob Murphy was quite surprising at Newcastle at the start of the season. Again, hasn't been in the side recently because he dislocated his shoulder, but was really doing very well for Newcastle. So, like, concerningly well. Just a player that I don't associate, no offence again, with a top 4 team, but he's putting in performances that show that he deserves to be in the squad still. Brian Mbeumo with his 7 goals for Brentford, another player who has since got injured, otherwise he'd be a firm candidate here too. I think Anthony Gordon, again, another player that's flown under the radar, this time at Newcastle again, because his goal contributions tally is really, really solid. And then Mohamed Kudus, who's got one of the coldest celebrations in the league, and again, instrumental for how well West Ham have been playing so far this season. And finally, you've been waiting for this one, it's the strikers, Erling Haaland. I mean, let's not dick about here. He's got to go in. 15 games, because he's been injured again recently, 14 goals, 4 assists, 18 goal contributions in 15 games. He's in the team. I hate to break it to you all, lads, but he's going in. Someone install him a new thigh, and he's gonna slap 40 goals again. Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins is probably a really obvious pick here as well. He's really been getting his flowers at the top and the head of that Aston Villa side, but they've been so good around him. You know, the likes of Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, Moussa Diaby, Leon Bailey, Martinez in goal as well, who I didn't actually mention. But then he's there just finishing off everything and also creating stuff as well. Joint top of the assist chart alongside Mo Salah as well with a tally of 8 alongside his 9 goals. I mean, the goal contributions wise, you're looking at 17 there. That's insane. Makes sense. Aston Villa are obviously they're up there, top 4 in the league right now. He's having like a career-changing season in terms of how people perceive him. He's not like a mid-table striker anymore that overperforms and gets like 12 goals in a season. He's actually like knocking on the door of elite level if he continues this ability and this level, this standard. And then your final actual candidate here is big old Dominic Solanke. I've been very impressed with this guy at Bournemouth. 12 goals for him this season. He's not really overperforming. His XG, it's 11, and he's got 12 goals. So he is getting a lot of chances in that Bournemouth team. They've really turned the corner since the start of the year as well. But even when they were playing badly, he was still getting goals here and there. And then your honourable mentions, Julian Alvarez. Didn't really know where to put him because he kind of just plays all over the place. Kind of replaced De Bruyne originally, but obviously having a very good season. Alexander Isak with 9 goals as well. And then Joao Pedro is having a great campaign in all competitions, especially in the Europa League and the Cups as well. Has been good in the league too. It's just that obviously a lot of his goals are from the penalty spot. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to choose the starting 11. And at this point, I want you guys to let me know what your team of the season for this point is down in the comments section. We start off though in goal, in between the sticks, and I don't think it's going to surprise you who I'm going to pick here. It is Alisson. The thing is, he's the best goalkeeper in the world, so it's really hard to not have him in this team. At right back, this is a really bad start for the people who say that I'm biased. It's Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I don't really think that's a controversial pick either. If Trippier had maintained the level that he was at before like game week 13 to now, it would be Trippier. 1,000,000% it would be Kieran Trippier. But he's had some honkers recently, and Newcastle fans will tell you that as well. So for me, I think in terms of the level of consistency, barring the first 3 games of the season, you're looking at Trent at that point. It's not just output, it's just what he does, what he's able to do with the ball at his feet, how he transitions Liverpool forward. And yeah, the guy is just incredible to watch. On the left-hand side, fuck the feds. I make my own rules, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I know that Pedro Porro can't play on the left-hand side. I know that he's a right back, a right wing back. It's because he deserves it. Stop booing me. He deserves to be in a team in a season like this. He's been really, really consistent and just overall very impressive. I know it should be Destiny Udogie because Destiny Udogie is the left back. But if you're asking me to pick who's been the better out of the two, it's Pedro Porro. Don't hate me. This isn't a lack of ball knowledge because I accept that Pedro Porro quite literally can't play there. But I don't care. Porro deserves it. Udogie, step it up a tiny bit and I'll actually play by the rules. And then in between those two shoddily put together wing backs, it is Virgil van Dijk, who's just back at prime level Van Dijk as of the last 2 months. Silky, smooth, in a very good and solid Liverpool defence, numbers wise as well. Alongside him is William Saliba. No real surprise there either. The stats show that he's one of the best centre backs in the league, if not the best, and just watching him play shows that he should be in this team as well. Central midfield, let's get going. Let's get the easy pick out of the way. Rodri. You knew this was coming when I was talking about him earlier. He has to feature. And if he doesn't, you need to grow up. Which leaves one centre mid slot alongside him. Yep, I'm choosing a 4-2-4 with a right back at left back. Further trouble. It's disgusting. I do realise what's going on here. Because of how good defensively Rodri is, I don't feel like we're going to get overrun. And I'm going to put another very competent DM next to him as well, or defensive-minded player in Declan Rice. He's had a lot more strings to his bow since the days of being a centre-back very early on at West Ham. He's a good ball carrier now. He's a good progressive passer. Even though he and Arsenal have dropped off in the last couple of weeks, he still deserves to be be here, just about. Which leaves us with our front four. No balance here at all. Again, we'll start off with a very obvious option here. Erling Haaland goes in. There's no messing around. We don't need to beat around the bush here. Out on the right-hand side, cutting in on his beautiful left foot is going to be the king himself, Mo Salah. I mean, again, he's top of both charts, goals and assists. I know numbers don't describe everything, but they're pretty important when it comes to, you know, goals and stuff. Partnering Erling Haaland through the centre is going to be West Ham's Ollie Watkins. Firmly deserves it. Again, goal contributions-wise, the guy's been insane. Another player that's maybe tailed off a tiny bit in terms of output recently, but it's, again, if we're looking at the whole first half of a season, Ollie Watkins has been about as good as Aston Villa fans could hope that he would be. And then rounding out this team over on the left-hand side is going to be the boy Jarrod Bowen. West Ham representation had to be. They're overachieving, playing really well as well, and Jarrod Bowen is instrumental again with 11 goals this season. Nut stuff from him. So realistically, we ought to pick out a bench here. We're going to go with a 9-man bench. We'll start with the backup goalkeeper. It'll be Vicario. Move on to the wing-backs, and we've got Kieran Trippier, and that's where you'll find Destiny Udogie. Trust me, if Porro at left-back doesn't work, then you're on, Destiny. Romero will then be the backup centre-back. Onto the DMs, and we're going to actually go with Joao Palhinha. Been so impressed with him. We've then got James Maddison from Tottenham, again, just a victim of injury. In terms of wingers, the likes of Heung-min Son and Michael Olise. And then finally, backup striker, it can only really be Dominic Solanke. And that is going to round out my team of the season so far. You'll have it up on the screen, but I want now you to let me know what you think of this team. What would you change? What would you do differently? Probably play a left back at left back. But yeah, drop it down in the comment section below and let me know what your full team of the season so far is for the Prem. That though is going to wrap up today's video, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.